Welcome to the channel. An interesting one today. I thought we'd talk a little bit about Windage. And all this started when I picked up this book for a little reread. This is called The Longest Kill by Sgt Craig Harrison. And you'll see. This is reading directly. On week 3, he's talking about a sniper course. So, the training he had to do to become a sniper. On week 3, we headed to Bisley ranges to start doing longer range shooting. 700 to 900 meters. Fuck me, I said to myself as I climbed out of the minibus and saw the range for the first time. There were flags everywhere. Every 100 meters, it's yards, but okay, on both sides of the range and up the middle. And they're not on every 100 yards, everything. Well, we're nitpicking. Shut up, Lenny. To make matters worse, a lot of them were fluttering in slightly different directions, meaning that the wind was fluctuating over the distance I'd be shooting. It looked utterly baffling, but the instructors made us lie on the firing point for an hour and just take everything in. The sounds, the wind, the flags, the trees and the grass. Everything that moved. After that hour, the environment started to make sense. Some people just have a knack for tuning into their surroundings, and some don't. I am one of the lucky ones, helped by my childhood out in the countryside. We got the opportunity to dry train, and I focused on maintaining my firing position and trigger control. Dry train basically means they lie on the floor, they put the rifle butt in their shoulder, and they dry fire the gun over and over and over. And every time he talks about it, it makes me wince. Might be all right if you have an armorer from the army standing by, but your bolt is hardened, and dry firing is really bad karma. I then moved, unless you use snap caps or something like that. I then moved on to the firing line. To take in all of the range flags, you'd need a head like a fish, eyes on either side of your skull, and I quickly found it easier to focus on the furthest flag. That was where the bullet would start to slow down and therefore be the most influenced by the wind. Now, not a bad book. He is, of course, right, and he's also wrong. The bullet is slowest at the end, and unfortunately, he hasn't got it right insofar as where you should look at the range flag. If you have a look at this chart, let's say you have a very, very nice shot, and just at the end, there's a gust of wind just before you hit the target, and because your bullet is slow, it knocks you off. Yeah? But if you have a look, he's still on the target. Whereas if he had the aiming error over here, where it's faster, and this is half the angle than it is down there, because the error is cumulative, you would miss the target altogether. So if you're only going to look at one range flag, you should look at the one closest to the firing point effectively. Unless you're an F-class shooter and they basically take some sort of cumulative counting of all the flags, and you have to talk to them. I'm not doing F-class. It sounds expensive and stressful. The thing that surprises me is that I'm just a humble hobby shooter, and down there I basically have my flag, which translates into the wind speed. This is for my 260. You can run this up on any number of programs. I think this is from the Sierra one. They had some sort of program published at some stage. And what I have is I have my distance over here in yards, and then I have my elevation for that distance, in theory anyway. And then I have my windage at 1, 5, 7, 11 o'clock, at 2, 4, 8, 10 o'clock, and at 3 and 9 o'clock. And obviously if the wind comes from straight ahead or behind, then that won't affect your windage. It just, affect your elevation a little bit. And with that, I actually do all right. And this is not discussed. He did not seem to have anything like this, or at least it's not mentioned in the book. Yeah. And when it comes to windage, the other thing that I do personally, as just a hobbyist, this is the reticle specification from Schmidt & Bender for my PMI scope. And what I have mil dots. Now, these people, bloody being German, of course, the mil dots are in 10 centimeters between mil dots at 100 yards. So you can multiply that by your distance. And what I did, because I work in MOA, I translated that, which basically works out as 3.4 MOA or 14 clicks on my rifle. And with that, I basically, if you have competition or something like that, you always get a couple of fowler shots. You fire you 2 fowler shots, and they hopefully form a tight group. And then with that, I can look at my mil dots, and from that I can find out how much I'm out. Let's say I'm out by half a mil dot, and then I can adjust from that by 7 clicks, and provided the wind stays the same, I'm spot on the target. Yeah. So this gives me the various distances. There are different ones, and I then translate that into MOA. And on the other side, I also have various target sizes. So let's say, I don't know, what have we here? If you're shooting 600 yards, for example, the V-bull is 7.8 inches, that sort of stuff. You can get a hold of your group. Between those two, I tend to do all right. The only other thing I would say, these are somewhat theoretical. And one of the things which I found helped a lot is I have a little book. I don't have it here, I have it in my gun bag, where I notate every time I shoot. I have a look at the windage and what it is, and I have a look at the settings on my gun that got me on the target. And I make a note of all that. Every time I shoot, I have a list. So I've got maybe 40, 50 entries by now. And I like to look at this, and then I like to look at the entries in my book, and I compare the two. And if it comes down to it, and I have shot in similar circumstances, I'll go with the entries in my book. And that tends to do very well for me, for my 260 anyway. So I hope that was halfway interesting, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.